Okay, I think we're ready to start. Great. So thank you all for coming tonight. It's our 19th meetup, the second one sponsored by our friends at Meetup. And no, I haven't shrunk. I'm not Norbert. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Maurizio. Norbert's traveling today. And we have esteemed guests visiting us from far away, and introduce them in a minute. But before that, I just wanted to go through a couple of announcements and news. As you see here, we're trying to experiment with something a little bit different, a little bit of interaction this time around. So I would recommend everyone to look at that QR code or go straight into the slide.dl website. There's a very short poll, just one question, please answer it. We're trying to understand a little bit more about the people who actually come to the events. And there's also a way for you to post questions as the presentations go on. So it gives you a chance to put something in without having to wait till the end of the talk. Or if you're shy and don't want to raise your hand, we're a very friendly bunch here. So check it out. Everyone, I have it on the last slide again anyway, but it's very simple. So have a look. So upcoming events. Just before we start today, I just wanted to point out that on the 6th, Norbert is giving a lunch presentation about the future of FinTech. We all want to know what's going to happen in this industry, so please come and join it. It's organized by our friends at Real Pro. We have a short video that goes with that.
Please join me on July 6th for an exciting and engaging discussion on FinTech and the future of finance.
Okay, so I'll wait for Norbert to get his Oscar for that performance. A couple of news. I think probably the first and most important, we have a new joiner for the Tokyo FinTech Association. Our intern, Michael, is there. Let's say hi, Michael.
Hi, guys.
University of Oregon senior accounting major, super nice guy. That's his Telegram handle. If you don't like anything, just pass to him, not me. But he'll be around all day at the next meetups as well. So do reach out. And he's actually going to be running a little bit of research for us over the next 6 weeks. So if he does approach you to ask a few questions about finance and technology, please be kind enough to dedicate a few minutes of your time. Another piece of news is we have launched a publication on Medium called the Tokyo FinTech Medium publication. That's the link and QR code. And this is going to be our repository for articles that we write about the market here, about what happens overseas. So we'd love for everyone to have a read, comment, and also if you're interested about becoming a writer for our publication, please approach us. It's open source, you retain complete control of IP and IP of your articles, but it's a nice way to pull our resources together to create a story and talk about what's going on in the market. So I'll give you another few seconds to help you get your code. That's 3 QR codes in 3 slides. So I've already done it. Okay, so today I'm very happy to have Shahaf and Steven present about COTI, currency of the internet. Shahaf is the CEO of COTI. He has made his mission to create a distributed ledger digital currency specifically for transactions. Speed, accuracy, security, efficiency are the keywords they're striving for, and we'd love to hear exactly how they're achieving that. Steven is a senior advisor to COTI, co-CEO of Cash Connect, an automatic cash handling enterprise, and he's a former CEO of Investec in London, and global head of their private banking business, and is bringing a is wealth of knowledge for the project, and we thank you guys for taking the time to come talk to our community. So please come and work.
Can you hear me well enough without the microphone? Good. People in the back? Yeah? Okay, great. With us are also John Elias from our operation side of the team, since they won't let me handle a laptop myself, and Tamar from our creative team. Please stand up. Great. We are super excited to be here. I'll tell you a bit about myself. Stephen will tell you more about him. We'll go through some slides that we made, and then of course we'll open for questions, maybe some answers. You can come meet us again during the next 2 days. We will be at Blockchain Week where we sponsor. You'll see us at the entrance. Should be quite amazing considering how much we paid for it. So myself, I live in Tel Aviv, in Israel, where our R&D and management team is. I am 40. I have 3 kids from the same wife. Yeah, it's not that easy. And I'm CEO of COTI. Prior to that, I've been an entrepreneur for the past almost 20 years. I founded a few companies, sold a few companies. Most of them were around marketing and B2B. I am also an Air Force major. I still go on reserve duty when they let me. And this is pretty much my story. Steven is a true professional, so.
I can't compete with that. I also have 3 children. 2 of them are from the same wife. And I'm going to tell you the boring story. The third one isn't from either of us. I adopted the third one. Sorry about that. Okay, I grew up in a place called Cape Town, which is in South Africa. I was schooled there, went to university there, then I did a small stint of university in London. At a young age, actually wanted to be an entrepreneur, ran out of money and joined a group of individuals. There were about 10 or 15 of them at the time, with the ambition to start a bank. And that was quite a daunting prospect, and we didn't really have a clue how to do it. So what we did is we lent money to people. They borrowed from us. We didn't have the money, so we went to the bank and discounted the paper. Everyone understands what that means? And later we listed the business in South Africa. This was pre-1994, so South Africa hadn't liberalized at that point. We understood that South Africa would liberalize, and we got permission very early on after we listed in South Africa to buy a small bank in the UK, which we then called Investec Bank UK, but it was a tiny, tiny little organization, which we then listed in London, and we listed it in London in 2002. So this was, it took us quite a while. We actually had to have a dual listed structure at that point. It's like some of the more complicated mining conglomerates. So we had a dual listing, London and Johannesburg, and we listed in 2002, and by 2006 we were a FTSE 100 company, and in fact if you took the shares off the South African register and we had a primary London listing, we would have probably been number 36 on the FTSE. And our whole model was around disruption. So we thought this was a group of young guys who were not so young anymore, but who wanted to challenge insurgents and do things differently. To cut it short, really, in 2011, for a variety of different reasons, I decided it was enough in the banking space. I decided to take a break and have spent most of my time since then in what you would call the FinTech space. Now, FinTech is a spectrum and means different things to different people. I got involved in this project probably a year or so ago, 18 odd months ago. I'm involved in a number of FinTech initiatives. This one is of particular interest, as it's significantly disruptive. I'm not going to steal any of the thunder from Shahaf. What he didn't tell you is that he flies F-15s on a weekend, so he's far better equipped than I am to give you all of the details in terms of what we're trying to achieve from a COTI perspective, and we are going to take questions at the end.
Good. All right. Any questions before we begin? All right. easier. Okay.
But you want to take it?
It's not even working. Is it working? No.
No, here, try it.
Okay. Don't mind it now.
Take a listen to
That's it. So the presentation is translated to Japanese, but I'll speak English. My English is far better than my Japanese. Thank you. But if you have any questions about what did he just say, please feel free to stop. So COTI, and I will present today the protocol that we have invented for value exchange, a way to transmit value. As you can see, we've been covered quite a lot. This is basically in Western media. This is actually my first time in Japan, and one of the first steps that we're doing in Asia. And COTI has been founded in 2017. We are 30 people full-time in the company. It's quite substantial for a startup and very much substantial for a blockchain product. So our vision when we started COTI was to build a system in which value can be exchanged between people around the world as easily as information is exchanged over the internet. Let's stop and think about it for a second. It is not that obvious. It's really not that obvious. Whenever we transmit value today, some commissions are associated with that, some documents are associated with that, and it's not really easily transmitted. And along came cryptocurrencies, and this is the beginning of our story. Now, why did we even want to invent this system to easily exchange value? Because we were involved heavily with e-commerce and FX, we noticed that a lot of our profits are going to processing fees. So as we all know, the traditional payment systems, the Visas, the MasterCards, the PayPals of the world, have quite a few issues. High fees is one of them, right? So high fees means that the average merchant can pay anywhere between 1% to 15% of his turnover to processing fees. Now, when it comes to e-commerce, especially in competitive markets like electronics, the margin for merchants before they pay taxes can be about 12%. On a competitive market, that's what you get, 12%. Now let's say you're not on the high end, let's say you just pay 4% for processing fees. That's 4% coming out of 12%, that's 30% of your profit going into fees. Guys, this is a co-founder in your company that takes money every month but never shows up to work. And what value does it add? You just need to do that to accept payments, right? Because you don't trust the other party. So that's high fees. Slow settlement. If you are taking credit cards, you're not getting paid immediately. When I ask here in Japan, which is a very cash society, merchants, what's wrong with credit cards? And they'll say, I want to get paid now. Why would I want to get paid in 3 weeks' time? Why would I want to keep 10% of my turnover as rolling reserve and wait for it? So that's another issue. Now, and this is mind-blowing, think of everything around you right now in this room. Think of your phone, your watch, TV at home, the computer here, the cars downstairs. Everything has innovated a lot in the last 10 years. I'm not talking about 20 years. The last 10 years, everything dramatically changed. Now look at your credit card. It's the same card I got when I was 16. It's the same thing. Plastic with magnetic field on it that you need to push the right way into the machine, otherwise it doesn't work. It hasn't been innovated. And you know what? Why would it be innovated? It's the same duopoly, Visa and MasterCard, that rule this market and won't innovate it because why would they? Now they're not evil, They're just sitting on top of the hill and nobody can move them. Cryptocurrencies is actually the first technology out there that might disrupt this old infrastructure. So you have that. You have 2 billion people around the world with no access to the financial system that even if they wanted to pay for something online, let's say they have the balance for it and they just want to, couldn't. You know, in the Philippines, you know the cash on delivery story, but people buy things online, they deliver it to their home, and then they pay cash for it. So a lot of cancellations happen, but this sort of systems are invented because a lot of people are underbanked. So these sort of things are real issues in traditional payment systems. But you know what? We all thought that cryptocurrencies can be a solution for that. So we thought, hey, let's, we are not happy with what's happening with traditional payment systems. Let's just take cryptocurrencies and build a payment application on top of it and give it to merchants and consumers, and ta-da, it is all solved. And we realized that everything around cryptocurrencies right now is just not suitable for mass payments. You actually can't use cryptocurrencies for everyday payments as it stands right now. Who here in the room, and I think it's legal in Japan, so feel free to answer, normally pays for things with cryptocurrency? No one. You know what? That's the sort of answer I usually get. In a room full with crypto heads in a convention where people, you know, raise their hand because it's cool, still 5 to 10 people will raise their hands. And you know what? It's not your fault. It is way too complicated, and there are way too many issues around paying for things with cryptocurrencies. And the name is not store of value. Cryptocurrencies, as it stands right now, it's digital gold, right? It's store of value, if you don't mind the fluctuation, but it says cryptocurrency. Isn't it supposed to become a currency? But it's not. Why? And we've seen a few things lacking. One is scalability. Visa and MasterCard can go all the way to 65,000 transactions per second. You know how much Bitcoin can do? 3, if it's conjunction, maybe on a good day with tailwind, 7, 20. That's not the same magnitude, right? Ethereum can go maybe 100. We now have some protocols, maybe XRP can do 1,000. Guys, we're talking about 65,000, right? So the scale needs to grow a lot. And another consideration, of course, is energy consumption. As it stands with Bitcoin, for instance, right now, when Bitcoin handles about 0.0002% of world transactions, it consumes the same amount of energy like New Zealand. So God forbid it becomes massively adopted, right? We don't have enough energy. So scalability is a big thing. Stability is another thing. When we ask merchants, hey, why don't you take crypto? You don't pay fees. It says, because if the price drops 20% tomorrow, I'm losing money. And maybe a consumer doesn't want to pay with crypto because if the price goes up 20% tomorrow, he's losing money, right? So price volatility is another big issue around cryptocurrencies. Now, governance and protection. Consider the next situation. I am paying for something online with my Visa, with my MasterCard, with my PayPal. And the merchant doesn't send me the product. I try speaking with him. I try to reason with him. It doesn't work. I'm calling Visa or MasterCard, saying I want to charge back this transaction. It is cancelled. And now I have a third party between me and the merchant that protects my interests the way I see it. Now, if I was paying for this product with any cryptocurrency out there, I would be bound completely to the merchant's good faith and trustworthiness, because I can't charge back a cryptocurrency transaction. It is gone.
So philosophically, we say that cryptocurrencies are a trustless system, a system where no trust is needed. But this no trust is needed is actually limited to balance, meaning I don't need a third party or a bank to say he has enough balance to pay and you have just been paid, confirmed. Cryptocurrencies can do that. Cryptocurrencies are completely unequipped to deal with a situation where trust is broken, when someone doesn't deliver what he says he will deliver. Or maybe just a simple mistake. I wanted to press 2, but I pressed 22 because I'm silly and I pressed 22 and it just happened. So what happens now? Right? So this lack of protection is super crucial when it comes to everyday people considering whether or not they will pay with something. If you tell them, look, but just make sure that you get it right, this 16-digit thing, if you don't get it right, it's gone. Who in his right mind will pay for something like that? We pay, as a cryptocurrency company, we pay for a lot of things. Like 20% of the things we pay for, like marketing and everything, is paid with cryptocurrencies, which is good. We like it. But you know how fearful is the person that actually presses enter before he presses that? Because he knows if it's gone, it's just gone. It's unbelievable. So that is a major issue we aim to fix. And the last is regulation and compliance. A lot of people around me would like to decentralize the entire universe and leave everything in complete anarchy, and this is the way to go. I don't actually believe that. And I actually believe, and in COTI we believe, that any payment system of the future will be completely regulated and will need to comply with rules and regulations of the countries in which it operates if it wants to achieve any scale at all. And it's not just because we live in a dangerous world and otherwise money will pay for guns. It's not just that. A merchant that accepts a cryptocurrency that was completely anonymous and may be part of money laundering may lose his entire business for processing. Why would he do that? Why would he take such a risk? So we believe that any payment system of the future will be regulated, and so we are prepared for that. COTI, and I'm jumping to the future a bit here, COTI is completely private, but it's not anonymous. If you want to transmit value in COTI, you need to go through a KYC and AML process, know your customer anti-money laundering process. And we have actually applied for a European license to use COTI, and we applied for a DLT license coming out of Gibraltar, Distributed Ledger Technology license, which means that we will be allowed to transmit value with cryptocurrencies. So what we've realized is that we need to build a new blockchain that will be scalable enough, that will be stable enough, that will comply with law and regulation, and that will be able to protect the users on it if we want to create a payment system of the future. But we've realized, after building it, that it can be used for other things as well. I want to show you a simulation of our network. Let's do that.
Any simulation?
Yeah, I don't know set it, but he only understands it.
Okay.
Just
May I tap again?
okay. What you'll see in the next few seconds is not just a very cool animation, though it is cool. You'll see a mathematical model, actually 361 mathematical models, that show our consensus algorithm and how our network operates behind the scene. So, this is the cluster, the DAG. We'll get more to this in a few seconds, but I wanted you to be able to see that way. Orange is new transactions that are headed to the network. I'm transmitting money to John. This is a transaction. So orange is not me, it's not John, it's just our transaction. Blue are transactions that are now being validated by these new transactions, right? So blue are the transactions that were added just before the orange one joined the network. Black are transactions that are confirmed, meaning money was transmitted. What you can maybe intuitively see right now is that unlike blockchain, and I will get more to that later, which is linear in nature, what we are building, which is based on direct cyclic graph data structure, is exponential. And because new transactions that are added to the network are in charge of validating and confirming previous transactions, as more transactions will be added to the network, it actually becomes faster, which is very different to what is happening with blockchain. Now, this is the data structure, but how do we get to a consensus? How is that achieved? If you look at a specific transaction, and by the way, this is available online in our website in various languages, including English and Japanese. How's it going? Okay. This is very difficult. When a specific transaction is confirmed, means that it was associated with a specific chain. Okay, I'll get to the math of it in a few seconds. Okay, great. So time begins here. This is what is happening now. This is what happened in the past. So this transaction here that was confirmed was validated and confirmed by being part of this chain. Okay, so how do we get to a consensus? So think of it that way. Every dot here has a score. What that score is, depending on the industry, around payments, around what we create, the score means trustworthiness. Why? Because trust is completely coupled to payments. Someone very bright said that paying for things is a very intimate thing. If you pay for something in cash to someone you see and trust, maybe he lives next door, you trust him completely, you send cash, you don't need a receipt, you don't need a third party to confirm the transaction, you don't expect to pay any fees on that, nothing. Trust is there. If you are paying for a supplier that lives on the other side of the world for a product, you will never meet him, and this may be your only transaction. He doesn't trust you, you don't trust him. So a lot of fees will be associated with that, because someone needs to facilitate and relay this trust. So someone trusts you, and then he trusts that one and that one, and so the trust chain is created. So we are simulating that. So every dot here has a trust score that is accumulated on the chain. So let's say money will be transmitted once we reach the score of 300. So it can be maybe 4 transactions with a very good score, 90, right? So 90 and 99, we've passed 300, and that transaction is confirmed. Let's say this chain is of low trust, maybe it's 30, 28, 32. You will need about 10 of these transactions to confirm the same thing. But it makes sense, because this is how we live, this is what we expect. We expect that low trust means slower process that takes more fees than a very fast than a process where high trust is involved. Another good thing about this data structure is there is no mining here. No mining is needed when it comes to direct specific graph, and very little proof of work is needed. So it consumes very little energy, and it doesn't take a lot of fees to create a global payment network, which is something that we were looking for when we were aiming for scale. Let's go back to the presentation. So I've discussed the cluster, and I've touched a bit the idea of comparing blockchain. And blockchain is very common to dive the cyclic graph, but think of the linear structure of blockchain, and as the network grows for Bitcoin, it becomes slower. That's the fact of it. Think of it as a website that has a very cool video, and everybody is trying to watch it at the same time. Very poor quality of service. DAG, on the other hand, as it grows, actually becomes more scalable, and the network becomes faster. Think of it as file sharing, P2P, which is illegal and I don't recommend it. But if you do, then a popular file is more easily downloaded because more people have pieces of it, right? So it's kind of similar to the same concept. So what we did with COTI, we built three things. First, we base it over DAG, as I've overstated, and that can go all the way to 10,000 transactions per second. Now there are other companies and other projects that we love that do DAG. Hydra, Nano, Iota, for instance, all do based on DAG or variations of it. Some do arbitration, and I'll discuss arbitration or how we have solved this chargeback problem, the buyer seller protection problem that I've mentioned. And some, and I've discussed the trust score or the ranking mechanism that we have, and there are some other projects that are involved around financial services. But with COTI, we've managed to take what we think is the best of all worlds, create some new things, to create a really robust payment system and a really robust protocol. And as I said, we've realized that what we've built can be used for more than just payments. We've realized, of course, like Iota is doing, we can do Internet of Things as well, right? We can do more financial services other than just payments. We can do logistics. We can do storage. Okay, distributed storage, like Ruzel or anything like that. People need to store things, right? And we can, and it needs high throughput and it needs some ranking, and we can deal with that as well. But of course, as a company, we need focus. So our focus right now is creating a payment system. And so we've built COTI Pay, which is the first application that is based on our protocol. And I will show that in a video in a second. You know what? Let's put the video on and which one?
That will keep on working while we sit here.
Sorry guys.
Trade began at the dawn of civilization. First, we traded with those we knew and trusted. Then, as our circles grew, we created financial institutions we trusted. To trade with strangers we doubted. Various payment methods were developed, and our financial system expanded into a big, powerful force that all payments came to depend upon. Today, every time we buy something, anything, we pay a fee. Transaction fees make their way into the pricing of goods and services, causing prices to climb, adding up to billions of dollars a year. Now, blockchain technology opens the door for change. COTI, currency of the internet, shifts the power into the hands of the people. With a digital currency built especially for payments, COTI encourages trade by building trust between buyers and sellers. Its decentralized trust system assigns each buyer and seller the trust score that is visible to all others. Honest behavior is rewarded and dishonest behavior is penalized. While Bitcoin and Ethereum lack the fast processing ability that is crucial in everyday commerce, COTI is a digital currency built to process tens of thousands of transactions per second. With zero fees for buyers, low to zero fees for sellers, and full buyer protection, COTI combines the best of traditional payment methods with the best of digital currencies, providing the fastest, easiest, most cost-effective, and most reliable way to pay for anything. Take part in the payment revolution.
So COTI Pay is the first application based on our protocol that is called Trust Chain. And what we think we were able to do is actually take the best out of traditional payment systems and hybrid it with the best of cryptocurrency. So the first thing, of course, is fees, right? As I said, they are very high with traditional payment systems. They have become quite high, by the way, even with Bitcoins, around $16 a bit right now, which is pretty high. With DEX systems and COTI, they are pretty much zero. So the infrastructure is extremely cheap, right? There is very little proof of work needed. It's completely decentralized, so there are no salaries or anything around that. So it can be very, very, very low. I would say it can be zero, but it won't be zero because you need some node operators and you need a way to incentivize user of the network, so it won't be zero. But if a merchant used to pay 5%, he can now pay 0.00 something percent, which is absolutely nothing. And this sort of saving goes straight down to his profit. Well, I can't read Japanese, but the second thing is stability, right? Or price hedging. When you pay with Visa or MasterCard, the merchant gets dollars, yen, he's completely hedged, he doesn't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. With any cryptocurrency out there that is not a stable coin, you need to worry. Now, COTI is not a stable coin. There are a few issues around stable coins, and we didn't want to build a stable coin, and we still don't. We've realized that the biggest issue is not about stabling the whole economy. It's about actually the merchant that just got paid with COTI and wants to hedge the downside of it and want to make sure that in a month's time he'll have the same value that he had today. So we've actually built a marketplace for market makers that actually hedge the merchant value for 30 days. So we don't need to worry about stabling an entire economy, which can be done, but it has a lot of drawbacks. We just need to worry about stabling some of the transactions for some of the merchants for 30 days for a small commission, which is doable. Compliance is the third thing. Most projects out there, especially the anonymous one, don't go that route at all. We are going for full compliance. We are the regulator's darling. We stick to any law in any country, and we're actually fighting for a license, which will probably be one of the first in the world to get, at least in Europe. Someone who reads Japanese can read that to me? Stability. Stability. We had stability.
Compliance. Protection of a buyer and seller.
Good. So now I want to discuss one of the key novelties in what we do, which is the buyer-seller protection. So If you remember, I told you that it's quite an issue for someone to pay with the cryptocurrency because if the merchant screws them over, they lose their money. How do we solve that? So let's say I bought something with a cryptocurrency and I now have a dispute with the merchant. He doesn't send me the goods. In COTI, we have an entity that is called mediators. Mediators are people like you and me that are part of the network, that have a high trust score, that went through a KYC process, that went through some screening, and have opted in to become jury in our network. So it means that if a dispute arises, they are willing to assist in solving it. What are their incentives? One, they have a monetary incentive, which I'll show you how they get incentivized with money. And the second thing, which was quite amazing, because when we opened our network for mediators to sign up and said, this is COTI, this is what we do, you can sign up to become a mediator, and then you can help other people by solving disputes. You can vote on it, your decision counts, and justice may be served thanks to you. We've mentioned nothing about any financial compensation. We said, let's open it for a week, you know, sign in the first 20 people, and let's get on with our lives. And when we've opened it, after 3 hours, we had 1,000 people signing in. Actual people going through a KYC, and I thought, we're not offering money. Well, what's the story here? And like younger people in my office said, what do you mean? They can speak their word, they can influence things, they can take part in a social community. That's Facebook. That's exactly what people do online all the time. They take part of things and they like it, just for the sake of it. So do we have this impact that they have? And we have a financial way of incentivizing them. So we thought, look, we need to build a system where people can analyze real-world data, they can look at the dispute and need to decide if, for instance, if I paid for something and never got it, they need to decide if I'm right or if I'm cheating, or maybe the merchant is right. In Visa and MasterCard, there's a department for that. They analyze the data, make a decision. In PayPal, the same thing. None of that is happening in cryptocurrencies. So these people read the data and they have full access because you can file your evidence, you can send receipt, you can show the package, whatever, same thing as you do with traditional systems. And then the mediators are assembled, and right now we have about 600 of them who have passed our screening. I don't know for sure, but I think it's bigger than any department in any credit card company, right? We don't need to pay their salaries, so it's completely decentralized. They don't know each other, so they can't coordinate. And once a dispute arises, we pick them up randomly from different regions, time zones, languages, so they can't coordinate between themselves. They read the data and they vote. Now, voting is not enough, because what if they don't care? They just vote. Maybe they are trying to fraud the system. So how do you build a system where people don't coordinate? They need to be incentivized and they need to judge wisely. You need to maintain the fact that they need to judge wisely. So, this is me and the merchant, and the mediators need to vote. Now, some of them will vote for me, some of them will vote for the merchant. And as I said, voting is not enough. When they vote, they don't just vote, they actually stake some of their tokens. So there's a minimum and maximum for that, but they stake tokens. They vote for me as a consumer, and they stake maybe 200 COTIs on that. That's $20. And the pool is created. So some mediators vote for me. You can see 4 of them voted for me and staked their tokens, and 2 have voted for the merchants because they think he's right. So now it is time to conclude the votes, and it's not the same number of voters every time, so it has some proportion to the size of the dispute. It is now time to make a decision, and it seems that in a majority of 4-2, I was right. By the way, I'm always right in my presentation. So I was right. So out of the pool of money that was created, it is now divided between those who voted with the majority. So if you were with the minority, you lose tokens. If you were with the majority, you win tokens. Now, before you think, hey, this means that this guy is standing here telling me that the majority is always right, of course not. But most of the time, yes. The fact is that the wisdom of the crowd is usually pretty much accurate. This is not scientific data that needs to be analyzed by the masses. This is real-world information, everyday situations that people can normally vote. And I don't know if someone here is from this sort of department in Visa and MasterCard, but these are not ex-judges. These are everyday people. They're usually not of the highest wage. Their incentive is to finish a quota, and they vote, and they decide. And there aren't a lot of them. And you know what? Some of our partners, of course, are from the processing industry, and they tell us all the time, look, you can send the same case to different departments in different countries. One day the consumer will be right, the next day the merchant will be right, and it will take 6 weeks, 6 months, and it will be a terrible situation, a terrible ordeal for everybody. So what we've created here is a decentralized, cost-effective way to create arbitration and justice. Now this goes beyond payments, of course, because this can be used in various other industries. Wrong side, sorry. Don't look. What is this? Cost. So cost is clear. So we think that in most aspects, or all, at least all of the aspects that I presented, we've actually created the best of all worlds. Low to zero fees is great for merchants, right? We're stabilizing what we can stabilize and what makes a lot of sense to stabilize, which is the downside for merchants. We are creating a buyer seller protection. We are completely compliant. And we are very easy to use. So we've built an experience that is, the guidelines for my team was make something that my mother, that can use credit cards, can use as well. If it's not that easy, I'm not interested. So we built something that is very easily implemented for merchants and consumers alike. Now, our go-to-market strategy is built on 2 pillars. First of all, we believe in this world. So people say, hey, it's chicken and egg. If you don't have enough consumers, merchants don't want you. If you don't have enough merchants, consumers don't need you. So where do you start? It's easy. We start with merchants. Think of the first time you downloaded the PayPal or opened a PayPal account. Usually, it will be associated with you wanting to buy something in eBay. Why else would you want PayPal? Right, to begin with. So the merchant actually drove you to try something new because it made sense to him and because maybe this was the only way to buy something that you needed. So COTI is very useful for merchants because it grows their profits, and this is what their sole existence is, right? They want to generate profits, so if we improve their bottom line, they actually want to encourage consumers to download COTI and start using COTI. So when it's presented as a payment option, maybe they offer you a discount, maybe they offer you twice as much loyalty points. They want to encourage you to use it. What happens if your card was just declined online? Right, yesterday I was at my hotel, I just arrived, I tried to pay for the room with a credit card and I have very good credit. Card was declined. Because, hey, This guy who is usually in Tel Aviv is now in Japan. Impossible. Block the card. And now I need to call the credit card company, looking at the cashier, they're feeling stupid because it can't be that I'm in Japan. Right? So cards are declined all the time. And when they are declined, maybe you're offered to use COTI because it always goes and it's instant. So maybe the merchant will try to encourage you to use that. So we are building of a merchant. And when we've opened and we did a call out for merchants saying you can now use COTI, or you will be able to use COTI in September when we launch, and zero fees, instant settlement. You know what? 3,000 of them have applied to use COTI in 4 days. And that marketing stunt cost us about $400. Right? I'll pay for taxes more here this week. So it hit a nerve for a lot of merchants. This is something that they want. So we begin with merchants. And we already have 50,000 consumers that have opted in to download our wallet with the first 100 COTIs loaded on it so they can start using it with the merchants that take COTI. We have signed an important partnership with processing.com, which is a very big payment service provider in Northern America with access to tens of thousands of merchants. And these merchants are what are considered high-risk merchants. So they're not risky to the consumer and they don't sell risky things. They are risky to the credit card company because of chargebacks. So these guys pay the highest fees. And for them we are a real blessing because a lot of their turnover goes to fees and because they get a high decline rate for credit cards. So we are focusing our efforts on merchants in specific verticals. So there are 30 verticals that are considered high risk, including things you won't imagine that are high risk, like travel, furniture, software as a service, right? Yes, gaming and gambling as well, but you could imagine that. And geographies that pay high fees for processing, like Sweden, for instance. So we have the numbers, and we are building a full ecosystem. So we have a coin, a native coin, based on our protocol. We have a wallet to support it, and in this wallet you can also hold other cryptocurrencies and fiat, because we have the license for that. We have acquired an exchange, not because we want to be in the exchange business. We won't compete with the larger exchanges. It has zero meaning to us. But we want you to be able, because the merchant just offered you to use COTI, we want you to be able to buy COTI at that point, at that time, at the checkout process with the merchant. I don't want to send you to tell you, look, maybe you should go to, I don't know, OKX, open an account there, do the KYC, etc., 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 and once you have the account after 2 days, then transmit money, get COTI, and then go back and finish buying the product. That's unreasonable, right? It makes zero sense. And some projects, by the way, rely on that process. I guess they haven't done marketing before. I want you to be able to buy COTI at that point. And I want to facilitate a hedging service for merchants, as I said, and I can do it better when I control the exchange, right? So we have built or bought a centralized exchange to support what we need. The name is COTI-X, and it will be launched in a few weeks. Now, debit cards is a partnership that we've signed with a bank, an Eastern European bank, and that will be launched in 2019. By the way, it's not important at all, but people love debit cards. Anything that can be done with a debit card, or most things can be done with an application as well, but people really like debit cards and it helps adoption, so we've done that. Now, who are the people in my team? I've presented myself. Our CTO, Dr. Nir Alwani, as I said, he has about 14 patents, or exactly 14 patents. Actually, he used to say that he has 13, and then he said, look, yesterday I've looked, and it turns out that I have 14 patents. So this is the sort of guy he is. If I had one patent, believe me, it would be a tattoo here. Owner of patent. This guy has 14 patents. He was former head of research for IBM. He knows a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And he has built a lot of software
and he's the guy that is in charge of building our protocol. It is also an entrepreneur. He sold the company himself. I won't bore you through everybody. We have 30 people. Half of them are engineers, data scientists, mathematicians. This guy, Eli, so it turns out there is an award for mathematicians, like a competition of sorts. Since Einstein, there were about 4 people to be awarded that sort of award, and I can't remember the name of it, but I will make sure to send it. So he's one of them. So very shrewd mathematician. Tamar and John are here. Our CFO was CEO for Plus 500 in the UK. Our COO was from HSBC. Quite a bunch of people. Anton was the head analyst for the Wings Foundation. This guy read more white papers than any of us combined, believe me. So 30 people full-time. Our board of advisors is something that we are very, very proud of. Stephen to introduce himself. We also have Dr. Matt McBrady, he's the former Chief Investment Officer of BlackRock. He's in our management committee. Lindsay, she's the CEO of Luna Capital, Silicon Valley VC, that focuses on DAG projects because she also believes that DAG are the future of blockchain. Avi Chesed has also invested and became an advisor for the company. He's the CEO of processing.com. He understands a lot about processing and fees. Ray Kidd was the CRO of Ripple. This is actually not what he's most famous for. He was the first investor in Twitter because he had this employee, this crazy guy that kept talking about things. He invested just to keep him quiet. It was Jack Dorsey. So he was the first investor in Twitter, one of the first investors in Square, the first investor in Coinbase. So you get the idea of what this guy is doing. And Nimrod Lehavi, who was the CEO and founder of Simplex, again, very famous for their ability to convert fiat to crypto. So he's also with us. We have a very good advisory firms helping us in this journey. This is my last slide, and I want to go through what we see as the achievements that we have so far. One is that we have a strong backing. I'm not going to discuss token sales in Japan at all, unless you really ask me to, but I don't discuss token sales in Japan, but we have a very strong backing in that sense. We did a community sale. No one from Japan has participated, so I can discuss that. What I can tell you is that we have limits. First of all, you had to do a KYC process with us, which was a real pain. You need to send us proof of identification, actually 2 of them in English, and proof of residence, which was a utility bill, not older than 3 months. And when I looked for mine, I couldn't find it. So it's a real pain, but actually 8,000 people did that, of which we took out 4,000 people, and limit ourselves to the 4,000 people which we thought we can handle in terms of compliance, legality of things. Now normally in the crowd sale about 20% of the whitelist will participate. In our case 75% or 77% have actually participated, and we've limited to about $900 per person. Right? And more than half of them actually did that. 60% of them have actually committed to lock their tokens, all of their tokens, till mid next year. So we had a very good participation from them and of course other investors. We have good partnerships. Right? I've mentioned processing.com, we have other partnerships that work well for us. We have first adoption of the protocol, so it's not just us developing over Trust Chain right now. Actually, a publicly listed company in Germany called Advanced Blockchain, actually now building over our protocol a smart contract platform. Okay, important. It's a good thing, so every now and then English is there. We are almost ready to launch, right? By the end of August, we will launch the payment application. It is called COTI 0 because it's the foundation of everything. Not all of it will be completely decentralized as we wanted at launch, but it will be more than enough, and it will be 0 fees for merchants. And that will be the beta test for all the consumers of merchants that have opted in to use COTI. So that is happening in August, and in September we are launching the alphanet of our protocol. So developers around the world can actually start using the code. As I said, we are working in a compliant framework, so our DLT license is something that we expect to see by the end of the year. It'll probably be the first one to be issued, or one of the top 5 to be issued. And we have quite a substantial community. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that we've done is focus on English-speaking countries because it was easier for us. And we have about 80,000 followers. About half of it is Telegram, and the rest is different channels or newsletter, which I encourage you to use. Most of it is English-speaking, Europe, Australia. We're very popular in Australia, but the truth is that in Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, not a lot of people know us, which was a terrible mistake, completely mine. So we are now starting to spread the word. We now have a Chinese Telegram group, which is becoming substantial, and we're going to keep on growing the channels globally. So this is COTI. This is me. One of the few perks that you have with a Hebrew name that is completely unpronounceable in any other language but Hebrew is that you get to keep it on all channels, because who uses that? So Shahaf BG, Skype, Telegram, WeChat, you name it, I can log in. Shahaf BG won't be taken. I don't know yet, but we're going to have a booth tomorrow, so you can visit us there if you'd like. And this is my personal email. Feel free to ask, text, whatever. We are very accepting of that, and we are very open to criticism or anything that you see that you think is not there. Also, in our website, we put a lot of material in our website. We have a very long and interesting, I think, white paper, technical white paper, if you like these sort of things. And it's translated to Japanese as well, and also Chinese and Korean. We have a business overview describing the payment system, again translated. We have a token economy there. And we will soon launch a very interesting document about the mediation system, arbitration system that I've just discussed, with what parts of game theory and other aspects of it we took to encompass in that system. And we have a lot of videos there. I think it's a very good website. I'm not very objective, but have a look. I think you'll find it interesting. This is the slides. Thank you.
Thanks, Shahaf. And Stephen, now we open up to questions. We need to be out by 9 o'clock, and we should probably try to have a 20-30 minute networking and more informal, but please show questions for Shahaf.
Yes.
Ask the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have 2 questions. So your platform is based on data. Immediately that reminds me of another blockchain platform like Shahaf or the IOTA and Nano registration. So I was not quite sure, seeing that animation